Hello, my fellow backyard explorers, and welcome back to Farmyard Care. Have you ever stood in your garden, watching your chickens scratch through the soil with pure excitement and wondered, what is one of the best natural treats I can give them? Or maybe you have looked at your monthly feed bill and thought, there must be a smarter, more sustainable, and more affordable way to support my flock. Today we are stepping into a very small world that can bring surprisingly big results. These little creatures may look fragile when you see just one or two of them, but when they grow by the hundreds and thousands, they become a powerful resource for any backyard chicken keeper. I am talking about the humble yellow mealworm. After years of caring for poultry and watching how quickly a healthy flock can eat through feed, scraps, and treats, I realized that store-bought feed alone was not always the full answer. That is when I discovered a practical and fascinating solution right at home. In this episode, I will show you how I farm mealworms for my chickens, step by step, turning simple grains and vegetable scraps into a high-value natural supplement. So are you ready to explore the world of micro-livestock, make your flock happier, and learn a few powerful lessons from nature along the way? Let's get started. Section 1. The Why, a nutritional powerhouse for your flock. Before we set up the farm, we need to answer one important question. Why raise insects in the first place? What makes mealworms worth the time and attention? I like to think of mealworms as one of nature's most concentrated little nutrition packages. When dried, these golden larvae can contain around 50% crude protein by weight. When fed live, they usually provide about 20% protein because of their natural moisture content. But the real value is not just the amount of protein. It is the quality of that protein. Mealworms are rich in essential amino acids such as lysine and methionine, two building blocks chickens need for strong feather growth and healthy egg production. If you have ever watched hens struggle through a heavy autumn molt, looking tired, patchy, and uncomfortable, you know how important good nutrition can be. The sulfur-containing amino acids in mealworms can help support faster feather regeneration and get your birds back into good condition. They also contain leucine, which works together with dietary calcium to support protein use and overall metabolism. On top of that, mealworms provide valuable fats, including omega-3 fatty acids and essential lipids, which help support the immune system and can contribute to those rich, deep orange egg yolks many backyard keepers love to see. But here is the part every responsible poultry keeper must remember. Balance matters. Mealworms are a powerful supplement, not a complete feed. They should make up only about 10% of your flock's daily diet. Too much protein can interfere with calcium balance, contribute to soft-shelled eggs, and put unnecessary stress on the kidneys. Used correctly, mealworms are a wonderful treat and a useful nutritional boost. So before we grow them, we need to understand the life cycle behind this tiny livestock system. Body Section 2, the magic of metamorphosis, understanding the life cycle. To farm mealworms well, we first need to become students of nature. Raising them is like watching one of biology's quiet miracles unfold right in front of us. The yellow mealworm, known scientifically as Tenebrio molitor, passes through four clear stages of life. The first stage is the egg. A single adult female darkling beetle can lay up to 500 tiny sticky bean-shaped eggs during her lifetime. These eggs are extremely small, so small that it would take about 20 of them lined up to measure just 1 inch. In warm bedding, they usually hatch within 4 to 19 days. Next comes the stage our chickens enjoy the most, the larva, which is the mealworm itself. For about 8 to 10 weeks, these little feeders burrow through the bedding, eat steadily, and shed their outer skin again and again. They can molt up to 20 times before reaching roughly 1 inch in length. Once the larva is fully grown, everything seems to slow down. It comes to the surface, curls into a C shape, and changes into a pale, unusual-looking pupa. This resting stage lasts around 1 to 3 weeks. During that time, it does not eat and barely moves. From the outside, it looks still and helpless, but inside, a complete transformation is taking place. Then comes the final stage. The pupa opens, and an adult darkling beetle emerges. At first, the beetle is soft and ghost white. Over the next few days, its shell hardens and darkens, turning reddish-brown before becoming nearly black. These beetles can live for 3 to 6 months, mating and laying eggs that begin the entire cycle again. When you understand this process, you start to see just how resilient and efficient even the smallest farm creatures can be. Body Section 3. Building the Worm Castle, your DIY farm setup. Now that we understand the animal we are raising, it is time to build a proper home for it. The good news is that you do not need expensive equipment or a large piece of land to start farming mealworms. I began with simple plastic storage containers indoors, where the temperature stayed steady and comfortable. The best enclosure should offer good surface area and smooth walls. Mealworms and darkling beetles cannot climb slick plastic very well, so a sweater box or a multi-drawer plastic tower works nicely and helps prevent escapes. My favorite option is a 3-drawer plastic system because it separates the life stages and makes harvesting much easier. Here is the basic idea. The top drawer is for the adult beetles. You carefully cut out the bottom of that drawer and attach a small hole plastic canvas or fine window screen. This creates a built-in sifting layer. As the beetles move around and lay eggs, the tiny eggs and newly hatched larvae can fall through the mesh into the second drawer below. This simple setup helps protect the eggs and baby larvae because adult beetles may eat them if everything stays in one container. Ventilation is just as important as the container itself. Drill small air holes in the lid, or attach fine screening to the top so fresh air can move through. Mealworms need oxygen, and if carbon dioxide collects in a deep, poorly ventilated bin, their growth can slow down or the colony can suffer. A shallow, clean, well-ventilated plastic drawer system gives your mealworms the breathing room they need to grow into a healthy, productive little ecosystem. Section 4. The bedding, moisture, and nutrition. A healthy little farm always starts with the right food. And with mealworms, the interesting part is that their bedding is also their food. At the bottom of each container, you want about 1 to 3 inches of dry, edible bedding. Wheat bran is one of the best choices because it is light, nutritious, affordable, and very easy to sift when it is time to clean the colony. You can also use rolled oats, non-medicated chicken mash, or cornmeal, as long as everything stays dry and clean. One important habit I always recommend is treating any new grain before adding it to the bin. Freeze it for a few days, or bake it gently in the oven. This helps kill any hidden pantry moth eggs or unwanted pests that may have come in with the feed. It is a small step, but it can save your whole colony later. Now let's talk about water. Mealworms do not drink from a dish like chickens, rabbits, or goats. They get their moisture from fresh fruits and vegetables, but this is where many beginners make their first mistake. A mealworm bin must stay dry. If the bran gets wet, it can ferment, mold, and quickly turn from a healthy habitat into a dangerous mess. That's why I like using carrot slices or half a potato placed inside down. Carrots are especially useful because they break down slowly and do not release too much moisture into the bedding. You can also place the vegetables on a small piece of cardboard or a plastic lid to keep the grain underneath dry. For a small colony, I usually add 2 to 4 pieces of carrot every 2 to 3 days, then remove any old dried out scraps. The goal is simple. Give them enough moisture to live and grow, but never so much that the bedding becomes damp. Good mealworm farming is really about keeping that balance steady. Body Section 5. The workflow, routine maintenance, and sifting. As the weeks pass, your mealworm farm will become more active. You will see larvae moving through the bedding, beetles searching for food, and the colony slowly building itself. But like any livestock system, it only stays healthy when you manage it with consistency. If you are not using a mesh-bottom drawer system, you will need to move the adult beetles by hand. This matters because adult beetles can eat both eggs and pupae. Every 2 to 4 weeks, gently transfer the beetles into a fresh container with new bedding. One easy way to gather them is to place a slice of apple in the bin. Wait for the beetles to cluster around it, and then lift them out carefully. This gives the eggs left behind a much better chance to hatch safely. After about 12 weeks, you will notice that the golden bran begins turning into a fine sandy powder. That powder is called frass, which is simply insect waste. At this point, the bedding needs to be sifted. You can use a regular kitchen sieve or a proper insect sifter, shaking gently so the frass falls through while the healthy mealworms remain behind. Once the bin is sifted, wash the container, add fresh dry bedding, and return the worms to their clean home. This routine does not take long, often around 10 minutes a week, but it makes a big difference. In my experience, the colonies that do best are not always the biggest ones. They are the ones kept clean, dry, and managed on a regular schedule. That is true whether you are raising chickens, livestock, or tiny mealworms in a plastic drawer. Body Section 6, the dark side, troubleshooting pests, moths, and allergies. So now let's talk honestly about the problems that can happen because every type of farming has its challenges. Mealworms are easy to raise, but they are not completely trouble-free. The biggest danger to your colony is not usually a predator, it is humidity. When the bin becomes too damp, you may suddenly notice the sides of the container covered with a moving brownish-gray dust. Those are grain mites, and once they appear, they can multiply very quickly. In just a few days, they can spread through the bedding and weaken or ruin your colony. If this happens, act immediately. Stop adding wet vegetables for about a week, leave the lids off so the bin can dry out, and place a thin barrier of Vaseline around the upper rim to trap mites trying to climb. If the infestation is too heavy, You may need to throw away the bedding and restart with cleaner, drier conditions. You also need to watch for Indian meal moths. These pests create sticky, web-like material in the substrate and can make the bedding unusable. This is one reason I always recommend freezing starter grain before using it. Preventing pests is much easier than fighting them after they spread. There is one more warning that is very important for your own health. Do not ignore the dust from mealworm bins. Over time, breathing in fine frass and shed exoskeleton particles, known as chitin, can trigger allergies, asthma-like reactions, or respiratory irritation. And if you are allergic to shellfish, be extra careful, because mealworms share similar proteins that may cause a reaction. When you sift your bins, wear an N95 mask and gloves, or do the work outdoors where there is plenty of fresh air. A successful farm should support your animals, but it should also protect you. Take care of your lungs, keep the colony dry, and you can enjoy mealworm farming safely for a long time. Section 7. The Joyous Harvest, Feeding the Flock and Garden Gold. When you get through the learning curve, the reward is worth every bit of patience. After about 3 to 4 months, your bins should be full of plump, golden mealworms, usually close to an inch long and ready to become a valuable treat for your flock. You can toss a small handful into the chicken run and watch your birds come alive. They will chase, scratch, peck, and compete for them just like they would in nature. That is one reason I like live mealworms so much. They do not just provide nutrition, they also encourage natural foraging behavior. And if you have shy hens that still keep their distance, hand-feeding mealworms can be one of the easiest ways to build trust and help them become more comfortable around you. If your mealworm farm produces more than your chickens can eat right away, you can slow the whole process down. Place the live mealworms in a container with some dry bran and store them in the refrigerator. At around 40 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit, they enter a dormant state which pauses their life cycle for up to 2 months. This can give you a steady supply during colder seasons when fresh treats may be harder to find. But this little cycle does not stop with the chickens. Remember the fine sandy frass we sifted out earlier? On a well-run homestead, nothing should go to waste. That insect waste can become a strong organic fertilizer for the garden. I like to age it for about a month first, so any remaining microscopic eggs have time to die off, and then I mix it into vegetable beds and potted plants. So the cycle becomes beautifully simple. Kitchen scraps help feed the mealworms. The mealworms help nourish the chickens. The chickens give us rich eggs, and the frass goes back into the soil. That is the kind of small, practical system that makes backyard farming feel so rewarding. Conclusion: farming mealworms takes patience, a little trial and error, and a willingness to handle the small details that many people overlook. But the lessons it teaches are incredibly valuable. You begin to understand how fragile, efficient, and connected a healthy ecosystem can be. You start to see value in something as simple as a slice of potato, a handful of bran, or a tiny insect most people would never think twice about. So, are you ready to try building your own small mealworm farm? What simple changes could you make in your backyard to work a little closer with nature instead of against it? I hope this journey into mealworm farming has given you the confidence to begin, the knowledge to avoid common mistakes, and a new appreciation for how much joy these tiny creatures can bring to your flock. If you enjoyed this topic and want more practical lessons on self-sufficient living, gardening, and raising healthy animals, subscribe to Farmyard Care, leave a comment about your own experience, and give this video a thumbs up. Until next time, keep exploring, keep nurturing, and I will see you in the next episode of Farmyard Care. Bye for now.